Welcome to Living Astrology Radio with your host, Janet Hickox, human design consultant and intuitive astrologer. At Living Astrology, we are tapping into the wisdom of the cosmos to uplift, empower, and enlighten people to their personal genius. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology Radio. This is Janet Hickox, and with me today is my co-host, Jason Levanis. Hello, Jason.
Hello, beautiful blue-eyed goddess. How are you today?
I'm quite well, thank you. How about you?
I am well, but I have to tell you, Janet, producing this show sometimes is a little hair-raising because when Mercury goes retrograde, there are sometimes, how do I say this, some unfortunate glitches. And at the moment, our guest psychic has not called in, so I need to bring that to your attention. So it might be you and me flying solo today.
She's in there. She's in there now, Jason. I see her
there now. All right, good enough.
Her area code just popped up.
The 540. I'm going to bring her in live. All right.
All right, go right ahead. You know, really,
hello.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
We can,
yes,
Tracy. Welcome
Excellent.
back
hello,
to Living
hello.
Astrology. How are you today?
Thank you. Oh, I'm so delighted to be invited on your show, Janet. Thank you so much for having me.
We're really happy to have you here. We're even doubly happier because now we know that you are actually here with us.
Yeah, and that Mercury did not play its games with us.
I'm so sorry. I certainly didn't mean to cut it that close.
No worries. I somehow thought, well, you know, maybe we didn't translate the time zones appropriately.
Oh, no, you're perfect. You're perfect.
Yeah. Great.
Now, is that a beautiful southern drawl I detect?
Oh, it's a blend.
I love it.
Thank you.
Where are you out of?
I'm in Roanoke, Virginia.
Wonderful.
Great. Well, we are so happy to have you here. And in a few minutes, folks, we're going to get ready to listen to Tales from the Other Side. But first, I want to talk a little bit about some really fun astrology stuff that's happening this week, as what we're looking at is Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion, making a move tomorrow from the sign of Virgo, where it has plagued us. I say that kindly and gently, for the last year, teaching us things about wholeness and our bodies and health and minding the details and learning to critically analyze things. And actually, Virgo is not a real comfortable place for Jupiter, as Jupiter likes to see the big picture and Virgo demands details. We've sort of had some struggle going on with that perhaps in our lives. But tomorrow, Jupiter will move into Libra for a one-year stay. I know. And Libra, of course, energy is all about relationships. So what we'll see is the emphasis switching over to our relationships, our business partnership, our ability to balance and be in harmony. God, I can't even talk right. Be in harmony with.
Did you get a new pair of teeth today? What happened?
Be in harmony. There we go with the relationships in our lives. But there's one word that keeps driving at me, Jason and Tracy, that I can't get out of my head for this whole next year, and that word is collaboration. Every time I turn around, it seems like the opportunities just, in this window before we start with Jupiter in Libra have been about people reaching out to partner with someone or collaborating on creating opportunities. And, in Libra, we like to do win-win situations, right? Not win-lose or lose-lose. It's all about win-win. And so I think that becomes a really interesting drumbeat for the next year. And I'm really looking forward to it, frankly, after having all of the, wonderful challenges of things going on in Virgo, which, by the way, we're not done with Virgo energy, just Jupiter's moved out. Just a heads up, because we still have another eclipse or two in that sector of our charts. So, but Jason, Go ahead. Go ahead, Tracey.
I was just going to say that, no medium pun intended, but that's just dead center with how things have been with me, and I believe how I want this year to go. And collaboration is definitely at the core of what I'm thinking. And you're in that picture, Janet.
Yep. So there's words like collaboration, being tactful and diplomatic, coordination, and collaboration is just, I think, the one that's just the drumbeat for me personally. But I would bet, because if I'm experiencing it often, I realize that everybody else is about to experience that as well. And Jason,
yes.
I had you draw a card around this for us. What did you come up? Jason, of course, being our resident tarot card reader, he uses the Cosmic Tribe tarot deck. So, Jason, what did you pull?
Well, very, very interesting, because, Janet, as you know, every week when we have a different human design scenario at play, you ask me to pull a card or two, and then I do a little video and we upload it, right? Well,
correct.
Tomorrow I will be giving you my video so you can upload it. I believe it's for Saturday, if I'm not incorrect. But what's very strange is we have 70-something cards here, and they're mixed up, of course. And I went and I pulled one card for today, and I fell out laughing because the card that I pulled for today with respect to this new constellation of energies happening is the exact card that I pulled for the human design, which is a little freaky. Now, instead of me actually interpreting it and giving you my Jason spin on it, I went straight to the book while I was on hold, and I said, I don't believe this, and I'm going to give you the exact word for word description that it says in the book. Okay.
Okay.
I pulled the Four of Swords, and if you see it, there are these four swords coming in from all of the different winds, the north, south, east, and west winds. And there are hands grabbing a circle, and these four tips of the swords are meeting in the middle, clanging, and working in a blue background of godlike endeavor, like as if they were angels. There's nothing red about the card. It's all blue. And the name of the card is Cooperation.
Oh, that was the other word I was trying to think of.
I know.
Awesome.
I was listening to you. No disrespect, not that you're not a wordsmith, but you are. But I was watching you sort of look for a word, and I thought, oh God, she's going to lose it when I tell her. So listen to the divinatory meaning, okay, if you will.
Sure.
Should the Four of Swords unite in your reading, contemplate your role in cooperation. Do you work with people or against them? If you are stressed out, it may be that you are working too much against people. Slow down and remember that cooperation really does make the world a friendlier place. But it requires you to be vulnerable and trust others, even if you don't agree with them about everything. Work with people toward common goals and see how much more you can accomplish with them instead of against them. And if that doesn't beat all, I don't know what does. So
I love it when that happens.
Isn't that crazy?
So.
And it's the exact same card I'm going to be speaking at in the video, but I also chose another card, so I will elaborate with the two coming together because of the aspects in human design. So, okay, I've jibber-jabbered enough. Let me turn the mic over to you two ladies.
All right. Thank you so much,
Jason.
See, I wondered why I couldn't get that word out. It was because it was Jason's word to share, but of course that's the perfect description for Jupiter in Libra. And now, do I think it's all going to be sunshine and roses for the next year while we're learning lessons about relationships? Not probably. As in, I'm sure there will be some issues that are underscored by the need for cooperation, for the need in collaboration. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes up for the year, and we will be talking much more about that next week on the show and doing readings for people on where Jupiter is in your chart and what that may mean for you personally. But today, I am so pleased. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for several weeks because my poor friend here, Tracey, lost her voice and couldn't be on the show a couple of weeks back. But we are kind of introducing, I guess, because it's been a while since you've been on the show, so I'm going to reintroduce you to Tracey Lockwood. Tracey is a medium, and she is the executive minister for the Universal Mind. She's also a radio show host on her own on the show called From a Medium's Perspective on Revolution Radio. And she teaches psychic and mediumship development, offers private reading, spiritual counseling, and specialty sessions of lithomancy, animal communication, spirit art, and past lives. And today she is on the show talking to us about Tales from the Other Side. And Tracey, welcome to Living Astrology, and let's get started.
Oh, thank you so much, Janet. I regret that I wasn't able to come before, and I'm so thrilled that I got an opportunity to come on today.
Well, it wouldn't have been any fun to make you talk when you couldn't talk, so I'm really glad that you're better now.
To hear me.
Yeah. So, Tracey, why don't we just start by giving our audience a little bit of information about you, more than what I just read, because, tell us about your work and the tales. Where do these tales from the other side, besides coming from the other side, where do they develop from?
Well, I call them that because when I do reading, I get to see life through the eyes of people that have passed. And it's just extraordinary to be able to experience sometimes what it was like for them to go through their transition. And some of you might be thinking, ooh, dying, ugh. But very interesting when we shed our body, the kinds of things that occur for us, and it's so very individual. We often have kind of a mindset that we go down a tunnel and we're met by Jesus, or we go down a tunnel and we're met by into the light and we're surrounded by family. And people have kind of a vague idea, like, well, mate, what do we do over there? Do we end up playing harps? Is it boring? What's an eternity? Like, whoa, are people suffering? And a lot of my clients that come to me, many of them are needing closure. They want to know, just like we want to know about our friends on Facebook, they want to know, how are you doing over there? Like, did you get my message? Did you know that I was there? They want closure for details, and they have questions sometimes. But a lot of the times they're just curious, like, how are you? How are you faring? And some of them have fears. Maybe somebody comes from a different background of belief or a different system of belief, and they're worried, like maybe they didn't make it over, or maybe they got trapped, maybe they're suffering. And, knowing what the actual experience is like for that person is helpful to them and brings, them a complete answer. And it comes along with evidence of other things so that they know I'm not just telling stories and making them up. And I just call them tales from the other side because I love stories. And it's extraordinary to see things through that perspective, Yeah,
it really is. And, I don't think there is a person alive, truthfully, who isn't interested in what goes on in that transition to the other side, or what goes on, just post someone's transition to the other side. So these stories are really, I think, very validating and very sweet in the way that the connections between people don't end at death's doorstep. And I'm sure that's been your experience as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, one of the most interesting basic perceptions that I got was, we do look, why is it that we have a tunnel? Why do we see from dark and go into the light? And I realized that that's our soul looking through the different layers of the astral plane, the etheric plane, the mental plane, into those layers of light and high vibration. So it looks like a tunnel into the light. When you're in the other end of things and you're looking down on Earth, it's like looking down into a well. It's like looking down into darkness, because you're looking from bright layers going down into the lower layers there. And, our awareness, a lot of people have encounters with things on the other side, and that's how things began for me. But then, I started having experiences of places and occurrences personally as well as through my readings. So.
And so tell us about being a medium, first of all. What does that mean?
I'm thinking it's growing to be kind of an outdated term, because I believe that everyone has an ability to connect. I think it's a natural spiritual ability that most people don't talk about. I think I read recently a statistic that said 70% of widows either see, hear, feel, or know that their their loved one is present with them. That's way beyond a woo-woo kind of cray-cray statistic. 70%. It's actually a pretty common phenomenon, And
that's why I said I'm pretty sure this kind of stuff has touched a lot of people that maybe they don't even that they don't want to recognize it as having been that, or they don't want to tell other people that that's the truth. But I believe that we've all got that ability.
Absolutely. It's as old as the dawn of time. And people, I think, get tied up sometimes particularly in a Christian background, if they have it, with rumors that maybe that's not okay. But, in the New Testament, Jesus said, desire the best gifts in Corinthians. I think it's chapter 12. And in chapter 8, they're listed what they are. And one of them, besides prophecy, and besides a word of knowledge, which is intuition, and a word of wisdom, which is psychic ability, is the discerning of spirits. And even Jesus saw dead people. He talked to Moses and Elias. They're not dead. That kind of is a weird term. Even though my license plate says kind of a shortened version of I see dead people, they're absolutely not dead. They're absolutely alive, and that their effort is to let us know that, and so that we don't, to give us perspective, not only that they're with us, but that life is so much more than what we can see, hear, feel, and touch, and so much more than what we're dealing with, that it goes on and that it's better, and that this is a temporary state that we're in when we are in body. It's actually a short time that we're in our physical body.
Yeah, and maybe we need a new word instead of death.
Yeah, transition. Some people think of it as a birth or a return home. I don't know.
How about if we call them the arisen?
Pardon?
The arisen or arise.
Yeah.
The arisen.
Right. That's a good.
I personally love the term graduation.
Graduation, sure. Yeah.
After the learnings and burnings on this plane.
Yeah, and
I like to think of it as a graduation.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And Janet, you asked me what do I do? I get very quiet and still within myself, and I'm able to maintain that state that everybody does every day. That state between sleep and wake, where you're very open and you have that, and I can maintain that state long enough to allow the messages from subconscious to come through, because we all have knowledge of that. We gain it in our dream state. Go ahead, Jason.
For all of us people who enjoy the left side of the brain, as opposed to the esoterica, what you're referring to, and people can look this up, it's a very real state that you're referring to. And if you get involved with any bioenergetic feedback, what you'll find is that in waking state, we are in alpha waves of the brain. In dreaming or sleeping, we are in beta state, which can all be tracked by a machine. But the state that you, kind lady, are referring to is something called the theta state, which is the in-between crossover state. And that state is what and that state is what mystics and trans-channelers and mediums, psychics, whatever word you want to use, myself included, that's the state that we go to. And very often, people that go to that state are not conscious of what they're saying. And that's why when they come out of it, they're like, oh, damn it, I have no idea what I just said.
Yeah, for me, I don't go that deep when I have done, but usually in a reading, I don't go out to the point. I channel very easily, so I don't have to go into such an altered state that I don't know what's going on. I'm aware while I'm reading of everything that's being said. I often adapt the mannerisms and the personality of the person that I'm channeling for the person when it crosses over from, I'm feeling your maternal grandmother here, and then I start doing things that I'm sort of subconsciously aware of, but I'm aware of them. But then, like, after the reading, if I don't write it down or they don't record it or something, I may not have recall afterwards. And so if I do get a really juicy nugget, I try to write it down because I'm sure that I have forgotten way more stories from the other side than I remember. I wish
isn't that
I had them all, but well, they're for them,
Exactly.
It's for them, and they remember them, and then they'll come back, and sometimes pieces will be repeated even though I don't remember what I said in the past session, and sometimes they'll recall it, and I'll kind of be able to pick up on that energetic signature of what was said before. So, yeah.
Right. Well, tell us what one of your most memorable stories is.
There are so many. I think one of the ones that really was so curious to me, there were two that pop in mind. One was, well, I have about 6 in mind now, but anyway, the first one that was an atheist that had passed. When I was reading for the person, he was very remote in position to my client, and I asked her if he might not have had a problem. I said, would he have had a problem with what we're doing? And she said, yes, he was an atheist. And she just wanted to know how he was. How are you? And so he was a little reluctant at first because he didn't like to admit that maybe there were some things that changed, but he was kind enough to share his experience. And I was just overwhelmed by the kindness that he received. What happened is, as he passed, he was in a bed when he passed. So as he became conscious in his state over there, it was as if he were in a room, sort of for lack of a better room, a description, like a shoebox-shaped room. But there weren't walls. It was like just an area of light that had been dimmed. I could see it both from outside and inside simultaneously, and which is something that you can do when you're the other state. You can see things from many perspectives simultaneously. It's hard to do when we're not in that state, but and so he was lying in his bed in this dimmed area, completely alone, but not lonely, just alone, being sort of given the respect of allowing to come to consciousness. And the first thought that he had as his eyelids in his new place were sort of closed was, oh my goodness, I'm dead, but I can think. And it just blew his mind. It blew his mind. He was like, oh, whoa. And it just was like a huge thought, because he really thought, like, it's over, like, boom, you're dead, And so that kind of rocked him. And then he could hear, like those days that you have where you're inside, but you can kind of feel the sunshine outside, and you can see that it's brighter outside. And he could hear voices, just quiet voices of people outside the AKA room there. And he thought, whoa, there are others, It just had never
I'm not alone.
And no, and he didn't want to, he wasn't like seeking connection. He just couldn't believe there were others. And so that thought kind of blew his mind and echoed through him for a while. And then he became curious. And he thought, I wonder what, and before he could finish the sentence, I wonder what it would be like, or where they are, or what it looks like. Boom! He was standing in a realm of light. And all I can describe is that there were 3 people over to his right that were his guides, but he didn't know them. There was a hamlet, and that must have been a ethnic or cultural reference, because I don't call a small town a hamlet, but, it must have had something to do with the family down to the left. And the building was constructed, I finally understood what they meant by streets of gold, because it was like woven from this light that had sort of a golden timber to it. And it had substance, but yet, again, you could kind of see into it and through it and around it, but it had structure, like it was definitely a town, and there were people and things down in there. And then this older gentleman came up over the hill from in front of him, and I knew, too, that was his master teacher guide. He looked sort of like Gandalf, wizardy kind of person, and just real casual, kind of sauntered up to him and said, hello, and he said, hi, and he said, would you like to look around? And he said, yes, yeah, sure, And so they kind of strolled off down the hill to explore, and his message to his daughter is, I'm boring, like that's where he was in the state at the time that she had the reading. So I found that just fascinating.
And how comforting was that for her?
Oh, absolutely, because you don't know. Even though many of us now don't believe in a punitive God or, a dichotomy of, eternal separation between the good and the evil, and that, sometimes people still worry, like, well, what if that's wrong, But he was just given respect and love and given a chance to adapt to his surroundings and his pace. He didn't, end up in a chair looking at his life review and, having to go through that yet. He was given the time he needed for his mind to heal and adjust. I
love that.
Find it incredible. Yeah.
That is... Yeah, that's really incredible. And so hopeful and helpful for his wife that was left behind, with a different spiritual viewpoint apparently, because she's reaching out to someone like you, to find out how he is, and then finds out that he is doing well. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
For people who are just tuning in today, and I see that there's quite a few just joining us, our guest today is medium Tracey Lockwood, and she is sharing with us Tales from the Other Side. And Tracey, why don't we just take a moment and let you share some information with the guests on how they can reach you if they should need your services, with your website, your Facebook, whatever you want to give them. Yes.
Yeah. They can find me on my website, which is mediumtracylockwood.com, and I spell Tracey, C-E-Y, Tracey, mediumtracylockwood.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and I have a lot of videos. They're free. I have 30 of them that are hardcore mediumship development They're free, absolutely free. All you have to do is click on the button and listen. I'd love it if you subscribed when you visit my YouTube channel. And you just go to YouTube and put in Medium Tracey Lockwood. I'm on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blah, blah, Medium Tracey Lockwood, you'll find me.
Right, as long as you spell Tracey correctly, Tracey. So, Tracey, I remember talking to you the last time, and I don't know if you want to share this story or not, but I really loved it, and it had something to do with your mother.
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about that again. And I've actually shared this with my mom. My mom is still living, but
right.
She has some challenges that have occurred in life, and as all of us do. And she's probably, I think she's about 84 right now. And I worry sometimes for her health, because of her age and because of things she's dealing with, although she's still tearing into all kinds of projects and very active, extremely active. And I was given sort of a preview of her crossing over. And I found that interesting from the fact that, we're so bound to the time-space continuum that it's hard for us to imagine something in the future that hasn't happened yet being explained. But actually, you can be clairvoyant about the past, the present, or the future at people that are living or crossed over. And in this case, I was given sort of a vision of her, and I saw her, first she was kind of in a little bit of a darker space, sort of a dark gray, not dark scary, but just kind of non-distinct. And then she noticed, and she was still her physical body. She tends to walk very carefully because she doesn't want to fall and break anything, and she's had different things that make her nervous about that. So she was walking very carefully, and she looked up and she noticed that she was at the edge of this huge field. And the field was bordered by woods on the far side, and she's an artist, and she loves to paint natural settings and she could not be happier when she's out and about in nature. And so she looked across this field, and she saw a dog, her dog from childhood. Cindy was the dog's name. And Cindy comes bounding toward her from the far edge of the field. And she cried out, "Cindy!" And she starts moving toward her. And as she moved, her mobility shifted from the very cautious, awkward, reserved way of walking. And she got faster and faster. And as she did, the years poured off of her, and she returned to what she must have looked like. Well, I know from pictures that she looked like when she was in her, mid-20s, and she was bounding barefoot with her dark hair again and her petite body and reunited with her dog. And that was her encounter. That will be her first encounter. Spirit is always kind and only allows people that are resonant with us and loving with us near us, and only at the scale and scope that we can psychologically handle at the time. And for her, that will be her entrance into the other side.
A loving pet greets her, basically.
Yeah. And they are there. Our pets are there. They sometimes come through in readings for people, and I do past life readings even on animals, because oddly enough, animals may have shared a past life with us as a human in another past life, which is kind of odd to think about, but it's
I know, but I like that.
Yeah.
That brings up an interesting point, because we have such a connection. I mean, I have two dogs laying here at my feet as we're talking, and last week they created hell for me during the show, but today they're behaving. And
I put
look
mine in the kennel. I was afraid of them. One of mine snores or purrs like a cat, and it sounds like someone snoring when she gets really happy. So I didn't need that on your show.
No, but I can't help it because if I'm tied to the radio, I can't anyway, a whole nother story for another day. But when you look in your pet's eyes, they are. You can't. I mean, to me, they're not just animals; they're friends. And so I would have been probably more surprised if they didn't show up on the other side than I would be if they did. So, and that's comforting. I find that comforting because I think, and other people probably do too, because they're probably some of people's animals they are closer to than some of the people that they've encountered in their lifetimes.
Yes.
And to think of them as being left out.
I would love to ask a question.
Sure.
Do.
Many times when I am giving lectures on metaphysics, I get this question, and so, Madam Tracey Lockwood, would you give me your take? Would you give me your take on this? Very many times, I will get people who say to me, "Well, has my dead dog reincarnated as my son?" So
interesting question.
I would love for you to speak to the ideal of soul proportioning and soul allocation so that this misconception can be cleared up.
I will tell you my premise. I will say that we can't say all or never, okay? But in my experience, we as beings, as sentient, conscious beings, are sort of proton clouds of energy, you know. And so when we're near another person, we subconsciously or unconsciously start adapting to their mannerisms. You've seen, like I have friends that are in the country, and I end up going a little southern and talking a little, drawing it out a little bit, you know, because, and I'm not mimicking them. That's just a way of relating more. And when I talk to the British people, I'm a little more crisp and clear in the way that, you know, like we adjust that's just a way that we adjust to you know, because mirroring is a way of communicating and letting someone know that you're connected with them, not in a copy way that's annoying, but, you know. And I believe that when we channel and pick up, like we were talking earlier about picking up the mannerisms, gesticulation, speech patterns of people as mediums, that animals are natural channelers and healers also, like we are when we're born and not tainted by the crushing things of life, you know. And so I believe that when another, like when someone is believing that their dog is reincarnated in another dog, for instance, that dog is actually channeling sort of in a charade type manner that other animal is present, and they may adopt the mannerisms or the behaviors of that being. I think it would be less likely for someone in our soul group, because there's kind of these levels of existence on the other side. So, you know, our soul group is our posse that comes down, and we all have agreed roles that we play in each other's lives. Maybe we're someone's mom in another life, and we're going to play daughter in this one, you know. And so we kind of wait, in a way, at this level for that group to reassemble, which takes years in some cases. And the chance that someone from that soul group would reincarnate in the body of either a person or another animal that's in that soul group would be far less likely. It's much more likely that there's a resonant vibration or a presence of that being near that other person. Maybe that grandmother isn't in the baby. Maybe the grandmother is near the baby, and maybe they have similar personality, or maybe the animal is near the other animal. What do you think, Jason?
Okay, so I come from, how do I say this? A slightly different way, and this is kind of, I grew up with the learnings of Edgar Casey, and I went on to certain other understandings, and the way in which I explain it to people is this. In the very beginning, when God, if I can use that word, thought itself into, when God thought itself into expression, which means it decided that it wanted to be in the physical form, it cast forth millions of entities. These entities then became yin and yang, positive and negative, whatever words you want to use. And so
the duality separated.
Right.
Yes.
So insofar as the human soul is concerned, like for instance, people say, "Oh my God, I met my soulmate," and blah blah blah. And the fact of the matter is if you ever met your soulmate, Tracy, you would be bored out of your breast because it would be a mirror image. It would be a mirror image of you. So you don't ever want to meet your soulmate. What you would like to meet is someone in your soul cluster, because you have been incarnating time and time again with this particular set of souls for the purpose of knowledge and wisdom in order to become experiential to the point of knowing and loving all that is like God. And then you lose your ego and you go back to the source. That being said,
right, yes, and it's a trusting relationship. You know, like let's say you need to experience the pressures of. I mean, we experience separateness in the body state. You know, say we need to experience how we handle our personal boundaries when we grow up with an abusive parent. Well, who better to play that role than someone you trust? I mean, it's sort of like going to like the gynecologist. You don't want to have, you want someone you trust there. You wouldn't really want your mortal.
I know. I hate it when I go to my gynecologist and I think, oh, what am I doing here? But anyway.
Right. So it'd be better to have like a comforting person that you trust that's nearby that you know will run tackle if things go a little out of control there. Yeah.
However, to speak to this idea of animal souls upgrading to humans and or humans degrading to animal souls, it is my contention, it is my theory, and it's a real gut theory that when God thought itself into expression, there is X amount of energy, let's just say, allotted.
Yes, matter can neither be created nor destroyed.
Right. There is X amount of energy allotted for the human soul. I'm not saying greater or less. I'm just saying let's call it quantity X, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
When God thought itself into creation for all of the animals and the insects and all of the other intelligent sentient beings, it allotted X amount of energy to that. So the idea of coming back as an elephant, or the idea of an elephant living hundreds of lifetimes and then becoming your next door neighbor, doesn't sit so well for me, and it doesn't make any sense. Whereas there is a hierarchy or organization to human souls, there is likewise an organization to animal and or sentient beings that are non-human. Does that make sense?
It does, and I understand what you're saying.
If you had a rabid dog and it decided it needed to learn from that experience, if it learned from that experience, then it would come back in the next lifetime perhaps choosing a different understanding. A dog with 3 legs, or a dog that was a savior dog for the blind. So it needs to learn all of the possible permutations of being a dog that there is. Does that make sense, Janet?
It does. It is. I had such an extraordinary initial reading that opened up a different way of thinking to me. Was just not, I didn't really train or learn anything from any other philosophy. I'm just connecting with like C.W. Ledbetter and Madame Blavatsky and, Manly P. Hall and all those.
Yes,
but
I'm with you.
All of mine has been, until I was 50-something, I didn't know, nobody talked about this. So I did this reading for this woman, and she was sitting there, and she literally brought 3 huge dogs physically with her into her session because it was too hot, and they're old, And I just asked her, just bring them in. It doesn't matter. Just let them sleep on the floor, and they did. And there was one right beside her. And I'm doing her reading. I'm focused on her. I'm not thinking about the dogs. I'm very comfortable with animals. Thought I was going to be a veterinarian. Probably am a wolf in my own nature. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about the dogs. And boom, the dog that she had brought in, the female dog that she brought in, transformed into a Native American male figure and began explaining to me that he had been a brother, or not a brother like familial, but like a friend of this woman. They were both men in this past life, and that they had fought side by side, and their village had been annihilated. And he had been afraid to come back into body form. So he came back as a dog because of the shorter life, entered a life where he was being abused as a female dog in this life, and she, as a female in this life, rescued that animal and has helped him learn the soul lesson that there is love and there is continuation of being after tragedy, destruction, and hardship. That was like something he needed to learn in order to have the confidence to come back into life again at a human level. And I had never, my dad was born in India, and I knew that there was a Hindu philosophy that, the Brahmins believed about the cattle being, that. And it just had never resonated, or I'd never really thought about it. And I've recently learned that in Buddhist philosophy, there's a belief that everything is sentient. Plants, rocks, everything is sentient. And in a way, if everything is created from the same source and everything is made from the same substances, just reformatted different ways, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. It was way outside the realm of my personal philosophy, but it was very interesting.
Yeah. I believe that everything has sentience, and I don't know that we can know with a capital K anything,
right.
For sure about, what souls do and whether our dogs or cats have, souls and can move on up to human status. I don't know. I think there's a little bit of hubris in that to even contemplate that we think we know the answer.
I think experientially we can know, but when like in terms of mediumship specifically, part of it is doing evidentiary mediumship for most people, because you want to be able to prove that what you're saying is credible, right? Like you want to give information that proves that you're talking to someone. You're not just going, "Oh, it's your grandmother." And
well, I can't help it. I'm just opinionated.
Right, but there's no way to prove when you start crossing in the realm of past lives, or you start crossing into the realm of animal communication, unless you can find a resonant thing, like to where when that process of going in that arena begins to resonate with your client, like they are like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, or yes, they do that all the time, or oh, my God, yes, what they're saying, I just bought that, or something like that. If you can't find that evidence, there is no way. And so when I trained at Arthur Findlay, even though they teach reincarnation, even though they teach, past lives and all that, they consider it less evidentiary. And so when they're training people to develop their gifts, they focus on what you can prove. But it's interesting. It's just interesting to think about,
Oh, yeah. These are really interesting and deep subjects. And, just kind of a funny human design story here is that Jason has a defined ajna, and you and I, Tracey, are open. in the ajna. So we're less certain about what we know. So other, theories and ideas that float around there, we can be more open to them. Jason, I was chuckling and trying not to do it out loud because you are speaking your opinion from your ajna. It's like human design in action. Perfectly.
That's so cool,
Human
Janet.
design in
That's
action.
So cool.
Tracy, while I've been in the background, I've had a bunch of callers ask me to have you please repeat your contact information because it went by really quickly. So can you, for our listeners,
thank you.
Please tell us how to get into contact with you again because we have about 10 minutes left for the show.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's Medium Tracey, Tracey Lockwood. And I think even if you misspell it, you'll find me because I'm pretty high in the search ratings. MediumTraceyLockwood.com is my website, and go to YouTube. You'll just put in YouTube and then put in Medium Tracey Lockwood. You'll find me. And on social media, I love them on Facebook, etc., whatever. I'm there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, she pops up quite readily when you do searches. In fact, in the chat room, I also put in a link to your YouTube channel. And so people who are in the chat room, and there's several of you in there today. Hello, everybody. You can follow that link, and there you have umpteen different videos and so forth that people can have access to. So it's a great place to go. So, Tracey, thank you so much for being with us today. I could sit and listen to your stories and tales from
Tracey.
all day long. I wanted to take two. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm tickled to meet Jason, too, and I'd love to have both of you back on my show sometime separately. I would love that.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you. I love to talk. It's one of the things I do. You open me up, you can't shut me up.
And really quickly, Janet, I wanted to say to your listeners, I wanted to leave them with a bonus. My regular rate for right now for an hour session is $150, and if they say Living Astrology or Janet Hickox, they will get $25 off and get the office rate, which is $125.
Wow,
that's
awesome.
Great. Yeah, so take advantage. Take advantage. All right. Well, Tracey, again, thank you so much. You're welcome to sit and listen to the rest of the show. I just want to take a couple of callers next and do some readings. And next time you have something you want to say, ring me up. I'll put you back in.
Thank you so much. I will silently listen and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you. Do I just say attack now or? Okay.
No,
thank you so much.
We'll take care of you. Thank you so much, Tracey.
A pleasure, and please contact me about that, okay?
All right.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. All right. Well, I just love talking to Tracey, and it's just so validating to know that there is something on that other side. But now we're going to come down to the earth a bit for a moment and talk about the sky. How nice is that? I have a caller in the queue named Janine. Hello, Janine.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you.
So tell me, I'm pulling up your chart here. What can I help you with today?
Can you tell me what in my chart what's your like for as far as like my financial situation?
Trying to earn income, but also finding that you have maybe access to other sources of income, or that you've had to rely on things like savings or credit in order to get through. Does any of that sound familiar to you at the moment?
Yeah.
So your opportunities, let's look at your opportunities then, because in the next, month and a half, you're going to have a Jupiter return. And a Jupiter return only happens once every 12 years. And it's a time for you when the next level of growth and learning will take place for you. So you have that to look forward to. And all those planets in the 8th house is also a house, when it's not related directly to money, it's called the house of transformation, death and rebirth. So it feels to me as I look at your chart that things are going to be in change and that you have things that are going to be opening up for you. Now, Janine, I do believe I did a Mercury retrograde chart for you. Did I not? Did you get that in email today? Okay,
yep,
so you are one of those people, too, whose Mercury is sitting on top of the prenatal solar eclipse, what you're here to teach others. And then the eclipse is hanging there at the same place on September 16th at your Pluto. So the dynamic here for you is kind of, I feel like you must be feeling a drumbeat, right? Some kind of pressure here to make change in your life. And so change, of course, will happen. Eclipses are game changers. But sometimes, in order to move forward, you have to let go of something. And that might be a mindset. It might be things that you believe to be true that aren't necessarily true. It might be people. It might be situations, lots of different things. Does that sound familiar to you at all, too?
Yep.
Having to let go in order to move forward? Well, so I just want you to know that this is not a bad thing, right? This time right now is, take a pause, take a breath, and then I would look at, for the future, how can you create new situations with maybe other people involved that can help you find your way? And, I say that without having given you the benefit of some other planets in your chart that are transiting through the 11th house, which, I don't know, Jason, if you're listening, and I don't know what kind of feng shui you do, but in some feng shui, there's this part of your house that's about helpful people and friends and helpful people.
Yes, and it is. As soon as you walk in, it is immediately to your right. So whenever you walk in as soon as you walk into your house, in the bagua, which is the octagonal chart on top of your house, immediately to your right is where you need to make sure it is not cluttered. It is a powerful color of red or black. Right, because for you, Janine, there's the opportunity at this point then to attract to you helpful people. And in this way, then, what you get to see is that you're not alone, and there's no need to struggle against the tide here. You can instead kind of magnetize the right people at the right time to come and give you opportunities or to show you the right direction to go in. So, and the reason I bring that up as far as feng shui is because that would be the part of your house, if you walk in your front door, as Jason said, to your right, that you want to strengthen so that you're appropriately ready when these opportunities show up. Does that make sense to you now?
Yes. Yes.
And of course, there's
Absolutely.
500 more things I want to tell you, but I only have a minute or so left on the show. And of course, I will be talking to you again shortly. So in that case, I'm going to leave it here for now. And thank you so much for waiting today and for listening to the show. And I want to speak now to Sarah Ann, who is out there waiting. Sarah, I will give you a call after the show because I do want to talk to you as well. And anybody else who was in the queue today and didn't get an opportunity to have a reading or get their question answered, please feel free to reach out to me at Janet, Janet, at living-astrology.com. And I'll be happy to answer your question or forward your question on to Tracey.
And should they like to get in touch with me, let me give my little plug. It is zenstaging@gmail.com. Zenstaging, one word.
Yes.
And so that's about it. We have about 10 seconds left. Janet, thank you again for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll be talking to you next week. Hopefully we'll get some more time for readings, and we'll be talking about Jupiter moving into Libra. Thank you, Tracey, from the bottom of my heart for being on the show, as we absolutely love the information that you share with us all. And for all of you, my listeners, without you, there's no reason for me to be on air, no reason for Jason to be on air. We love you, too. Have a stellar week, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on Living Astrology. Living Astrology is part of the Empower You Media Network. You can find out more by going to www.living-astrology.com or by going to www.empoweryoumedia.com. If you would like to find out when our shows are airing, you can follow us at Blog Talk Radio under Living Astrology. please consider liking us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Living Astrology and also Empower You Media. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now. Have a stellar week.